Let's be honest, fall harvest is just right around the corner, and most farmers are truly just hoping that they're ready. When we get to this time of the year, you can start to feel the pressure building, right? The stress starts to creep up, the anxiety starts to creep up, and things like that, because farmers know that they have invested a ton of money into raising this crop, and they're worried about what their harvest is going to ultimately turn out like, and whether or not they're going to actually show a profit going into the end of the year. And inside of today's video, I'm going to talk about 3 things that you need to be doing before harvest to make sure that you're prepared accordingly. Everything I talk about today is going to be about getting ahead of the stress so that you can make fewer emotional decisions and walk into harvest like a true business owner, not somebody that's living on another year and another strategy of hope and prayer. So let's break it down. The first thing you need to do, and I say this in a lot of videos, my friends, but you need to update your numbers. And I'm talking about updating your balance sheet and your cash flow projections for each individual business. The reason for this is because most farmers, and I'm talking a high percentage, like 90% or more, are walking into harvest with no game plan or strategy on how they actually expect harvest to go. And this is the importance of just updating your numbers and putting together a thoughtful strategy at the beginning of the year so that when harvest time does come, you know whether or not you're on track or off track. And also too, you're able to pinpoint what problems you could ultimately face. And this is a huge key point here, guys, that I want you to take away. Inside of Legacy Farmer, we help all of our customers put together a month-by-month cash flow projection. Now, there's a lot of reasons for this. 1, they know what their numbers are going to look like for the year. 2, they have a game plan now that they're going to follow. 3, they look great to their banker and they're able to negotiate interest rates, loan terms, and things like that because they're structured and organized. But 4, as you're going through and updating these numbers, which we hold all of our customers accountable to updating their numbers at a minimum on a monthly basis so that they're prepared for their monthly one-on-one with their business coach. The biggest reason, though, out of that is so that we can predict problems before they happen. So many farmers invest a pile of money going into harvest, and then ultimately after harvest, it becomes a complete disaster of a year for them because they had no idea where their farm was actually at going into harvest. So you may have 5 or 6 months of the year go by before you actually enter harvest that you're just investing and investing and investing, and that line of credit balance is just creeping up month after month, and you just hope and pray that harvest is going to be able to solve that problem. But the reality is, unless you know where you're at, you're flying blind, my friends. And ultimately after harvest, if the numbers don't start to pencil out the way that you want them to because you're not paying attention, you're ultimately going to be faced with a lot of problems that you could have solved way ahead of time if you have just updated your freaking numbers. I cannot tell you how important this is and how many of our customers have been able to solve or predict problems that weren't actually going to happen for another 3 or 6 months because they were updating their cash flow projections and ultimately analyzing their decisions and figuring out what's going to work and what's not going to work after harvest is complete. This is a massive deal because so many farm operations are literally sunk because they don't pay attention to the numbers and there's something that happens. Maybe it's an unexpected equipment repair expense or something just goes sideways, and ultimately that could be $100,000, $200,000, $300,000 loss to your bottom line for the year, when the reality is you could be planning for these things months in advance. But most people, they're just not putting in the simple work of updating their cash flow projections on a monthly basis minimum in order to put themselves in a position to win. So step number 1 here, guys, when I'm talking about updating your numbers, I'm talking about doing a lot more than just updating your balance sheet and your cash flow projections, but really using that information to be able to predict these problems and plan accordingly going into the end of the year. I can just tell you from experience of working with hundreds of farmers over the past 5 or 6 years that their world opens up and everything about how they run their business and the decisions that they make, when they know their numbers at this level of detail, it all changes, right? Which means their future changes, which means their profits change, which means their legacy is going to change for their operation. Now, if you're listening to me talk about all this and your guts are telling you, yeah, I probably need to get my numbers structured and organized so I actually have some clarity going into harvest, then I'm going to tell you that's a good thing because that's God's way of communicating to you, hey, you have a problem here and you should probably listen up. Now, inside of Legacy Farmer, this is step number 1 with every single customer that comes into our program, getting their financial foundation set up so that every future decision that they make is rooted in facts, not fear. And if you don't know where your dollars are going ultimately throughout the year, then we'll help you get extremely clear on that. You can schedule a quick call to learn more about our program inside of Legacy Farmer by clicking the link below. All right, my friends, now step number 2 is another massively important one, but it's one that most farmers don't do, and they may not pay the price for it immediately, but it's a guarantee that they will eventually, and that is start your tax planning in October. Now, I know that sounds simple to say, and a lot of you may think, well, why would I want to do that? Well, I cannot tell you how many customers, again, that we've worked worked with, one, they lose a ton of money because they're not monitoring their cash flow, not sticking to their game plan, and ultimately paying the ultimate price with these unexpected repair expenses or something like that comes up that ultimately tears up their bottom line for the year. But the next piece here that tears up their bottom line is not starting tax planning at the appropriate time. And the reason that a majority of people don't do this isn't because they don't want to, it's because they literally can't, because they don't have structure and organization inside of the numbers. And the thing is, you do not want to be in a place where you get to the end of the year and you have to be reactive with every financial decision that you're making. I have seen hundreds of thousands of dollars lost. I have seen millions of dollars in bad purchases made at that time just to prolong this inevitable tax bill. And I've seen operations sink because they don't tax plan appropriately. And like I said, you want to be proactive, not reactive at this time of the year. And the proactive farmers, the ones that are going to win long-term, the ones that are in the top 1% of farmers and ranchers and ag business owners in this country, they start tax planning in October because they know how it's going to benefit them long-term. These type of people that do this, my friends, they already know what their tax bill is going to be 60 to 90 days before the end of the year. When the average farmer, they don't know what their tax bill is going to be until after the year is already over. And I'm sorry, my friends, but it is too late at that time to obviously plan for your taxes. But a lot of people, they're stuck in that place where they're trying to be reactive and ultimately backdate checks or backdate purchases or whatever they need to in order to try to tax plan a little bit. But guys, that just exposes massive red flags inside your operation that you're not truly monitoring or leading your operation at the level that is demanded inside of today's economic environment. And this is why you continue to see the top 1% of farmers and ranchers get further and further ahead year after year after year. They do these simple but big things differently than everybody else. All right, my friends, now the third thing that you need to be doing before harvest is you need to get your mindset routine in place. Now, what do I mean by this? Harvest is a very stressful time for a lot of people inside of the industry. And most people, they don't know how to manage their emotions and their mindset when the stress and anxiety ultimately hits them. And this is when you see people start leaning on emotions, start becoming reactive, and start becoming careless with their decisions on a day-to-day basis. And it's not because they want to, it's because these emotions are coming into place and ultimately taking over control with the stories that are consuming their mind on a day-to-day basis. And what I mean by this is if you don't have a strong and focused mindset during harvest, the stories are going to start to creep in. And this is where we start to, again, get careless or become reactive and emotional with our decisions going forward. And again, this is where a lot of costly mistakes can happen. But worse than that, this is where you're also putting people around you in danger as well because you're not as focused as you should be. And then guess what? This stuff is going to cascade into other important areas of your life, like your body, your nutrition, and your health, which has never been good during harvest. When we had wheat harvest back when I was in high school, I don't remember one healthy meal during that time there. We missed workouts all the time. I had no meditation routine. My key relationship at that time definitely faltered just because I wasn't spending the right amount of time on those key things there to protect my mindset. And there's so many distractions that come up during harvest and things like that. And that's why, again, it's just so important that you stay focused on you, because if you don't, you are going to begin seeing compounding problems happening in every area of your life. And this is where a lot of people, they blow up because there's this internal hurricane building up inside of them over a 2 to 3 to 4 week period. And it always comes out at the wrong place, at the wrong time, and more importantly, in front of the wrong people, like maybe your spouse or your kids at home. And I'm only speaking about this because I've lived this as well and I've witnessed it growing up. All of these things are only going to set you back in other important areas of your life besides just what's happening in the field. And so this is why you have to make sure you have a solid routine in place to take care of your body, to take care of your being, which is your mindset, to take care of your balance, which is your important relationships, so that you can lead and take care of your business. And this concept that we call inside a legacy farmer is core 4: body, being, balance, and business. And the only way you're going to take care of business is by making sure that you're taking care of those other 3 areas of your life first. Now, if you want structure and accountability, then Legacy Farmer and everything that we do inside of that program was built exactly for you. And none of what we built at Legacy Farmer was built out of theory. All of it was built out of actual experience from leading and guiding more than 400 family farm operations since 2019. We've made a lot of mistakes, but guess what? We figured out a lot of stuff as well. And the number one thing that people need is structure and accountability to make sure that they're holding that structure in place, like updating and knowing their numbers on a monthly basis. So if that sounds like something you know that you need, then I invite you to click the link below this video and schedule a free discovery call with our team so that we can learn more about your farm operation, your problems, and most importantly, your goals so that Legacy Farmer can help you get there.